Guadalupe Island or Isla Guadalupe is a volcanic island located 241 kilometers off the west coast of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula and some 400 kilometers southwest of the city of Ensenada in the state of Baja California, in the Pacific Ocean. The two other Mexican island groups in the Pacific Ocean that are not on the continental shelf are Revillagigedo Islands and Rocas. Alijos. Administration and population. The 2010 census recorded a population of 213 people on the island. Guadalupe is part of Ensenada Delegación, one of the 24 delegaciones or subdivisions of Ensenada municipality of the Mexican state of Baja California. Ensenada Delegación and Chapultepec Delegación together form the city of Ensenada, the municipal seat of the namesake municipality. The postal code of Guadalupe Island is 22,997. Campo Oeste is a small community of abalone and lobster fishermen, located on the western coast, specifically on the north side of West Anchorage, a bay that provides protection from the strong winds and swells that whip the islands during winter. Generators provide electricity, and a military vessel brings 30,000 liters of fresh water. The number of fishermen varies annually depending on the fishing season. 10 months of the year, the 30 families of the fishing cooperative Abiloneros and Langostras of Guadalupe Island are present. Additional temporary fishing camps are Campo Norte, Campo Lima and Arroyitos. An abandoned fishing community, Campo Este, is located near a cove on the eastern shore. At the southern tip, on Melpomene Cove, there is a weather station staffed by a detachment from the Mexican Ministry of the Navy. The site is called Campamento Sur. Campo Bosque was established as a temporary camp in 1999 in the cypress forest in the north. The camp houses members of the Cooperative Farming Society Francisco Javier Maturana SC and removes goats from the island and sells them in the state of Sonora, with permission of Secretariat of the Environment and Natural Resources and the support of the Secretariat of the Navy. Campo Pista is located at the small airport near the center of the island. Airport Isla Guadalupe has a 1,200-meter-long runway. At the end of the runway near Threshold 5 is the wreckage of a Lockheed Model 18 Lodestar, which overshot the runway during landing. A former North American B-25J-30-32 Mitchell BMM 3501 bomber wrecked on the opposite end of the runway, after suffering serious damage in trying to take off overloaded. This B-25 wreckage was removed from the island in late 2005 or early 2006. Guadalupe typical Parkinsonism was traced to heavy consumption of leafy and fruit of the Ananaceae family. Geography. Guadalupe has a rugged landscape. It consists of two ancient overlapping shield volcanoes, of which the northern and higher volcano is the younger. The island measures 35 kilometers north-south and up to 9.5 kilometers east-west, with a total area of 243.988 square kilometers. It features a chain of high volcanic mountain ridges which rises to a height of 1,298 meters at its northern end. Its smaller counterpart on the southern end is the 975 meters El Picachillo. The southern part of the island is barren, but there are fertile valleys and trees in the northern part. The coast generally consists of rocky bluffs with detached rocks fronting some of them. Two high and prominent islets are within 3 kilometers of the southwestern end of the island, separated from one another by a gap called Tuna Alley. Isla Tafuera, 28.86472 degrees north, 109 118.2947 degrees west, 28.86472, -118.29472, 1.5 hectares. The most distant, steep with almost vertical walls above and below water, is Dentro, 28.87167 degrees north, 118.29278 degrees west, 28.87167, -118.29278, 0.393 square kilometers, with two smaller islets nearby, Church Rock, Roca del Skip. Elsewhere, the other islets are very small and close to the shore, all less than 1 kilometer away. Isla Negro, 28.90639 degrees north, 118.28833 degrees west, 28.90639, -118.28833, 8.8 hectares. To the southwest, Revillagigedo, 28.91667 degrees north, 118.3000 degrees west, 28.91667, -118.3000, 0.3 hectares. To the southwest, Isla Bernal, 28.93444 degrees north, 118.29806 degrees west, 28.93444, -118.29806, 1.1 hectares. To the southwest, unnamed islet, 28.94694 degrees north, 118.2950 degrees west, 28.94694, -118.2950, 0.5 hectares. 2 kilometers north of Isla Bernal, unnamed islet, 28.94972 degrees north, 118.29667 degrees west, 28.94972, -118.29667, 0.2 hectares. 4 kilometers north of Isla Bernal, Steamboat Rock, 0.3 hectares. To the west, Roca Elefante, 0.1 hectares. To the northwest, climate. The island has two major climate zones: a very arid, semi-hot climate between 0 and 800 meters elevation, with mean annual temperature between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius, and a very arid, temperate climate above 800 meters elevation, with temperatures over 22 degrees Celsius in the hottest month of the year. Most precipitation occurs over the winter months, with strong influence of northwestern winds and cyclones. Rainfall averages 133 mm near sea level at the south end, but appears to be much more at the high north end. An estimate for the rainfall in the northern highlands is possible by way of taking Pinus radiata as an indicator, which is native to that area of the island. Other places where Pinus radiata is native, it grows best with about 750 mm of rainfall, but under some conditions can survive with as little as half that much. The effective moisture, of course, is much greater because of fog drip. Geology. Guadalupe Island is composed of oceanic shield volcanoes which formed on a now extinct mid-oceanic ridge. The volcanic rocks of the island consist of olivine basalt and trachyte. Ecology. Guadalupe Island was a major destination for Russian and American fur hunters seeking the Guadalupe fur seal in the 18th and 19th centuries, until they were nearly extinct by 1844. Captain Auguste du Hautzilly reported in 1827 that a Sandwich Islands brig had spent several months there, and collected 3,000 seal skins. The northern elephant seal was also ruthlessly hunted for the oil in its blubber. They were thought to be extinct in 1884 until a remnant population of 8 individuals was discovered on Guadalupe Island in 1892 by a Smithsonian expedition, who promptly killed 7 of them for the collections. The elephant seals managed to survive, and were finally protected by the Mexican government in 1922. All surviving northern elephant seals share the same male ancestor. Guadalupe shares the California chaparral and woodlands ecoregion with the Channel Islands of California in the United States, but the island was at one time practically denuded of all plants higher than a few centimeters by up to 100,000 feral goats. Originally brought there in the early 19th century by primarily Russian whalers and sealers for provisions when stopping over, the population eventually eliminated most vegetation. The number of goats declined to a few thousand. The main impact of the goat population was before this collapse, about the turn of the 19th-20th century. Naturalist A. W. Anthony wrote in 1901, "It is directly due to the despised billy goat that many interesting species of plants formerly abundant are now extinct, and also that one or more of the birds peculiar to the island has disappeared, and others are following rapidly." Quote, "After the crash, the goat population once again grew, this time more slowly, until it had reached the new, lower carrying capacity at maybe 10,000–20,000 in modern times." The island had been a nature conservancy area since August 16, 1928, making it one of the oldest reserves in Mexico. A eradication of the goats was long envisioned, but logistical difficulties such as island size and lack of suitable spots for landing and encamping hunters and material prevented this. As of June 2005, after many years of false starts, the Mexican government has almost completed a roundup and evacuation of the remaining goat population, and Guadalupe has been designated a biosphere reserve. French Sea Captain Auguste du Hautzilly remarked on the tall trees on the north of Guadalupe Island as he sailed past on January 2, 1827. Of the large tree species on Guadalupe Island, there were only old individuals left. California juniper had entirely disappeared. As the goats ate any seedlings that managed to germinate, no regeneration of trees was possible. Water, formerly plentiful as the common fogs, condensed in the forests of the northern end of the island, today only occurs in a few scattered pools and springs. Because the springs were a critical emergency water supply for the human inhabitants, protective measures including goat fences were installed beginning in 2000, allowing new seedlings of many species to survive for the first time in 150 years. Seacology, a non-profit environmental group located in Berkeley, California, provided funding to the Island Conservation and AMP Ecology Group for the construction of 10 fenced exclosures to keep goats out of the most sensitive areas of Guadalupe Island. In November 1850, U.S. Army Lt. George H. Darby passed the island on his expedition in the U.S. transport Invincible. He described it thus: "This island is about 15 miles length and 5 in width. It is rocky plus mountainous but capped with vegetation, and is reputed to be thickly inhabited by wild goats of unusual size. Water is found upon the eastern shore, and the island is frequently visited by small vessels engaged in the capture of the sea elephant, numbers of which animals are found upon its coast. Many islander marine species species that reside on and near Guadalupe also frequent the Channel Islands, and vice versa, in stark contrast to the rampant extinction of terrestrial life that happened at the same time. Guadalupe was the last refuge from the northern elephant seal and the Guadalupe fur seal in the 1890s. The island has been a pin-up sanctuary since 1975. Guadalupe is considered one of the best spots in the world for sightings of the great white shark, possibly because of its large population of pinnipeds. Habitat types. Before the removal of ghost surveys found 8 major land habitats on Guadalupe. Flora of the coastal lowlands and rocky cliffs, mainly up to 200 meters above mean sea level, but higher on the steep cliffs. Largely unresearched due to difficult access, the cliffs might even harbor remnant specimens of the presumably extinct plants. Succulent perennial herbs, 200 to 400 meters ASL, chiefly on the southern end and on the offshore islets, and in less steep areas towards sea level. Here, the highest number of endemic plants exist. Bryopsis guadalupensis, Cistanth guadalupensis, Dudleya guadalupensis, Hemizonia greeniana ssp, greeniana H, Palmeri, Perital incana and Stephanomeria guadalupensis are dominant endemics, and giant Goropsis, a non-endemic native species, is also abundant. Arid maritime shrubland, 400 to 600 meters ASL, mainly in the southern portion around El Picachillo. Native species occurring here include Ambrosia campherata, Atriplex barclayana, Cylindropuntia prolifera and California boxthorn. None of these is endemic. Herbland dominated by introduced plants, 600 to 800 meters ASL, mainly on the central plateau. This habitat is almost entirely a consequence of overgrazing. Hardly anything of the original ecosystem remains. Dominant introduced plants are Avena barbata, Bromus bertroanus, great brome, soft brome, red brome, tacallode, nettle-leaved goosefoot, Philago californica, wall barley, crystalline ice plant, M. nodiflorum, Polyporgon monspeliensis and Cicimbrium oriental. The non-endemic natives dwarf coastweed, island false bindweed, Cryptanth maritima var, maritima, Philago arizonica, Gillianevani, California goldfields, Pacticaru palmeri and Perital emery, as well as the endemics Cryptantha foliosa and Spheralchea palmeri can be found here also. Some are still numerous. This probably was a mesic shrub, herbland before the goats destroyed the upland forest, upsetting the water supply. Native plants still found on Guadalupe, like Crossosoma californicum, laurel sumac and the endemic Camisonia guadalupensis ssp. Guadalupensis, presumably thrived here in former times, as would have such taxa as the native hoary-leaved Ceanothus, wedge-leaved Ceanothus, and possibly also feld-leaved Ceanothus, which was found in 2001 to 2003 surveys. Camisonia robusta, red-flowering currant and the endemic Hesperalia palmeri, which have now disappeared from the island. Guadalupe palm groves, 400 to 900 meters ASL on the northwest side of the island. There are hundreds of palm trees remaining, mainly in a single patch of this habitat. At least one other major palm forest, at the W coast, existed. It was still present in 1906 at Steamer Point. As reproduction is presumably still ongoing, the species will likely recover in due time. Guadalupe cypress forest, 800 to 1,000 meters ASL. Presently some 4,000 of old trees, essentially limited to the central northern part. Other cypress forests, such as a major stand near the present patch which was still extant in 1906, have been destroyed by the goats early in the 20th century. There is still reproduction, but the water table appears to have declined to below the level required by the cypresses, and mortality of the old trees is high and can be expected to continue even after removal of the goats. Guadalupe palm island oak, Guadalupe pine woodland, 900 to 1,000 meters ASL. This habitat has all but disappeared during the 20th century, due to the decline in numbers of the oaks and pines. Guadalupe pine cloud forest with some island oak, restricted to above 1,000 meters ASL on the any point of the island. The population of the pine has declined by about 2/3 during the last 35 years. It presently stands at about 130 old trees in the main population and about the same number scattered elsewhere. Reproduction is ongoing, with several hundred seedlings having successfully established themselves since 2000, and with the elimination of goat browsing, the pines will likely make a full recovery. The situation of the oak is more dire. There are only 20 trees or so remaining and they appear past reproductive age. Not being restricted to Guadalupe, seedlings could be imported from elsewhere. A ninth habitat type, California juniper woodland, and extending on the central plateau below the cypress forest, was entirely gone by 1906. What other endemic life forms underwent co-extinction with it will forever remain unknown. Endemism. Animals. Guadalupe fur seal, only major breeding site. Townsend's storm petrel, only known breeding site. Ainley's storm petrel, only known breeding site. Guadalupe rock wren, endemic. Guadalupe house finch, endemic. Guadalupe pipefish, endemic. Guadalupe junco, endemic. Guadalupe caracara, endemic, extinct. Endemic spiders. Habernatus gigas herpilis giganteus Kibramo isolator. Sergiolus guadalupensis. Plants. Bryopsis guadalupensis, near endemic. Brachyregulus, effectively endemic. Camasonia guadalupensis ssp. Guadalupensis, endemic. Castilleja fruticosa, endemic. Cistanth guadalupensis, endemic. Cupressus guadalupensis var. Guadalupensis, endemic. Cryptantha foliosa, endemic. Deonandra frutescens, endemic. Deonandra greeniana ssp. greeniana, endemic. Deonandra palmeri, endemic. Dudleya guadalupensis, endemic. Dudleya virens ssp. extima, endemic. Eriogonym zapateuense, endemic. Erysimum marani, endemic. Eschscholzia elegans, near endemic. Eschscholzia palmeri, endemic. Gallium angulosum, endemic. Githopsis diffusa var. Guadalupensis, endemic. Hemizonia frutescens, endemic. Hemizonia greeniana ssp. greeniana, endemic. Hemizonia palmeri, endemic. Heteromeles arbutifolia var. Macrocarpa, probably endemic. Lavatera lindsay, endemic. Lupinus niveus, endemic. Mira guadalupensis, near endemic or endemic. Peritel incana, endemic. Facilia philomenica, endemic. Pinus radiata var. Binata, near endemic or endemic. Saturefha palmeri, endemic, rediscovered in 2001 to 2003 surveys. Senecio palmeri, endemic. Spheralchea palmeri, endemic. Spheralchea sulfurea, endemic. Stephanomeria guadalupensis, endemic. Tritlia guadalupensis, endemic. Extinctions. Numerous taxa have gone extinct due to the habitat destruction by the goats, which in turn rendered the endemic fauna vulnerable to predation by introduced cats and to adverse weather by depriving them of shelter. There have been 5 to 6 extinctions of birds. Guadalupe Bewix wren, late 1890s. Guadalupe spotted towhee, late 1890s. The Guadalupe caracara was intentionally made extinct by humans around 1901, ironically because it occasionally preyed on young goats. Guadalupe flicker, c. 1910. The island was later recolonized by individuals of the nominate subspecies. Guadalupe storm petrel, 1910s. The Guadalupe ruby-crowned kinglet is close to extinction, if it indeed still exists. It was not observed in 2000 despite thorough searches. Globally extinct plant taxa from Guadalupe Island are Castilleja guadalupensis, Hesperia palmeri, Pogogyne tenuiflora, and one species of plant Incerticedus.